Should be everyone in the waiting room in now. So welcome to our session today, which are on the screen at the moment. Obviously, to all about public sector tendering and the opportunities for your business. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much to Shiona, one of our wonderful chamber members and experts within the chamber, who's going to share her expertise with you today. So I know people are pushed for time, so we won't hold this up, and I'll put hands straight over to Shiona.
Hi everybody, and it's really good to see you here today. So thanks for joining us to this Grow Your Business Through Public Sector Tendering. I know for a lot of people the thought of selling to the public sector can be very daunting, because, well, what I find when I speak to people is some people think their business isn't big enough to sell to the public sector, that the public sector won't buy whatever it is that they sell, or it's too complicated to find and win work. So hopefully I'll give you the confidence that you can actually take those first steps to sell into the public sector, or to begin your journey of selling to the public sector. So this is an interactive workshop. If you've got any questions, please ask them as we go along. It's a small enough group that you can interrupt me if you want to, or pop something in the chat, and Damon and I will try and keep an eye on that. But I'm going to start this hour-long webinar by telling you why I think it's worth exploring selling to the public sector. I'll then tell you about some contracts that have been won by small businesses, and then I'll take you through the first steps that I would recommend you take if you were wanting to begin your journey of selling to the public sector. So my name's Shiona Campbell, and I work with business owners who thought that they couldn't grow their business by selling to public sector, and I work with them to identify the right options for them, the right opportunities to be successful in growing their business by selling to the public sector. I previously worked for local authorities for 17 years, and then I worked in the third sector, and that's the point when I get into bid writing and working with people with, well, it was charities at that point, to grow by selling by winning public sector contracts. The first tender that I went for in the third sector, we actually got 100% for quality. So although I was responsible for the project management and the writing of most of the bid, it was a collaborative bid, and as all bids should be, you should be working with others in your team to make them as good as you can. So we got 100% for quality. So that was a real feather in my cap at that point in my career. So let's move on with this. So if I can get my slides to move, sorry. Right, so why sell to the public sector? The first point I would say is the volume of contracts that are in the public sector. So in 2018-19, the public sector in Scotland spent £14.2 billion. I've not been able to find out any more accurate figures, but that's only the public sector in Scotland. And remember, you've also got public sector bodies in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, who are all operating in the same procurement system. So once you understand it and you've got the system in place, you could be selling anywhere, especially since COVID. If you're a service-based business, it's possibly slightly more difficult for goods, where you might have certain distances that you want to go for, but there are options throughout the UK for you, and actually Europe, because it's the same system. In Scotland last year, 92% of the opportunities advertised were low value. So for goods and services, low value is worth less than £50,000. And this is a real sweet spot for businesses like us. That kind of contract would be amazing for us. For works, it's higher than that, but for goods and services, it's £50,000. In Scotland as well, last year, 79% of the opportunities that were advertised were quick quotes. So I'm going to give you some pointers later in the first steps about the quick quotes, but quick quotes are basically invite only. You have to have a supplier finder profile, and you're invited to bid for that. So what better, you don't actually have to do the trawling. they come to you and ask you to bid. So that's probably the best option for us as small business owners. And last year as well, 18,800 suppliers were awarded contracts, and 78% of them, were SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises. So SMEs are businesses that employ less than 250 people. The UK government had a goal that by 2022, 1/3 of their procurement spend would be with SMEs. This included the supply chain. There's been nothing, I can't find anything about whether they met that or not, but 1/3 of the spend with SMEs, that's amazing for us as small business owners. So. Oh, was that mine? Sorry, let me just, yeah, I have. So yeah, looking at some opportunities. What I did is I've had a look at for all contracts, there's meant to be a contract award notice published, so you should always be able to trace back who's won a contract. So if you were either considering something, or if you have actually bid for something, then there should be a notice published that tells you who has won that contract. So what I've done is I looked at the contract award notices that have been published over the last couple of weeks, and looked at the ones that have been won by small businesses. So this first opportunity for ecological and capital works, this was a contract published by Natural England, and this was for a church in Dunstan. The company that won this bid employed 5 people, and they seem to do quite a lot of volunteering as well. And the value of this contract was £8,711. The contract ran from 2nd of September 2022 till the 30th of September 2024. So a 3-year contract. So yeah, that's been won by a business employing 5 people. So that type of size of contract isn't going to be appealing for large corporates. They're not going to want to put the effort into winning a contract of that kind of value. So that was the first one I thought it was worth looking at. The second one, the first one, I could actually tell you a bit more about that, sorry. It was to install trail cameras and static bat detectors, remove a window in a tower and install blackouts, to purchase and fit bat boxes in the silence chamber, to complete bat monitoring surveys and assessments of existing data, and to report recommendations. So yeah, that was quite a neat contract within that. The second contract example that I have here has been published by the Met Office. So the Met Office wanted Domo dashboard development. I'm not really sure exactly what that is, but some kind of tech for you. So the value of this contract was £17,500, and it was won by a business that was incorporated last year. All the information had in the contract award notice was development of dashboard on existing Domo solution. So, but that has been won, £17,500 contract, won by a company that was only incorporated last year. So you're not necessarily too new to be bidding for these contracts. The contract started on the 19th of December 2022, and it runs until the 31st of January 2024. So yeah, definitely options there. So I have a second. So this next one, so this is a contract that's been awarded as part of a dynamic purchasing system. So the public sector use different types of contracts. A lot of people assume that all contracts are awarded as a single supplier contract, but that's not actually the case. Many are awarded as part of either a framework agreement or as part of a dynamic purchasing system. So both of these are used when the organisation doesn't know how much spend there will be. Used quite heavily in service-based contracts, but also for goods. So they don't know how much spend they're going to have, and also it can give them options of buying from more than one supplier, so having a list of suppliers on it. So for a framework, if you were to apply, there will be a closing date by which so normally that would be around about a month and you would apply by then. But for a dynamic purchasing system, the applications are open for the whole time that this contract's live. So this is a dynamic purchasing system from Leicester City Council. They have it live. It runs until, I think it's around about September this year, and people can apply to be on a pre-approved list, and then you're then notified of any contracts that come up. So they have, I looked up their contract register, and they have a lot of contracts that have been awarded through this dynamic purchasing system. So this is a website design and build, including maintenance, and a company who employs 2 people won it, and the value of the contract's £24,425. So this is just one of the contracts through this dynamic purchasing system. This is actually a business that appears to, from what I could see, employ a husband and wife. So they are responsible for the website build, including maintenance and support for Gresham Works. So that's what that comes under. So yeah, it's not just one contract. Often with dynamic purchasing systems, the agreement is actually quite long. Often they're about 5 or 10 years. So imagine if you could apply for something, be successful, and know that you'll be asked to bid for contracts for the next 5 years. It's amazing, that kind of thing, I think. So really good for businesses. And as you grow, you obviously will potentially be looking at bigger contracts going forward, and there are the options on dynamic purchasing systems of there being different size contracts within them. So that's it.
Shiona,
Yeah.
can I just jump in there? And so just to clarify, because I've got a good vague understanding of this. So that contract that was awarded there was to a single provider, obviously, but was that within what they call a framework? So whereby, let's say you, so I just wanted to find out a bit more about that, because I think when I've seen frameworks, it's been, you know, I don't know, one person, they've broken down print, web, design, I don't know, I'm just thinking about marketing and promotion sort of things. So maybe just explain a little bit more about that.
Right, so it's a dynamic purchasing system, not a framework.
Right,
they
okay.
both work relatively similarly, but there will be more than one company. Well, there is more than one company on this. So for a dynamic purchasing system, basically you're only going through a pre-qualifying questionnaire to get onto the dynamic purchasing system. Once you're then on it, any opportunities that come up must be offered to everybody within the dynamic purchasing system, at which point you do a more detailed bid that would include pricing at that point. So you don't do the pricing before that. And on a framework, it'll have a tight deadline for it rather than the duration of the contract. A framework can have more than one provider on it. I've got clients who are on lots of different types of framework. So I helped somebody get onto one, and they offer business advice, expert help in North Lanarkshire. So they got onto 2 different lots, which is one way that makes it more appealing to us. So lots can be geographic, or they could be specialist.
Yeah.
So he's on a lot, I think he's on innovation, and then I think it's maybe business growth. So business growth, he won first place on that, and the innovation he won second place. So for business growth, any contracts that come out, because of the way this framework works, he gets offered that work, and it's only if he turns it down, it goes to person 2. But other frameworks work on a kind of round robin basis, where company 1 will work first, company 2, then company 3, and then it'll work back to company 1. Others will do a best fit of who wins it, so they do work in a slightly different way. But frameworks are really good ways to get work and not have to deliver a really big value contract, because often they're split up in different ways. So frameworks and dynamic purchasing systems are similar, but they're open for the whole time, and you only go through the pre-qualifying in the first step of it.
Right.
So
Okay.
the second one I've got there, the second example on that page, the network advice. So this is a Scottish Government contract, and they have 24 suppliers on this. So it's a dynamic purchasing system. It was set up in September 2017, and they have 24 possible suppliers on that list. And anytime they have a requirement, all 24 people on that list will be asked to bid for it. I had a look at the people who were on the list. There's a company who have gone out of business, but there's also a company who were set up in September 2017, and there's 2 employees in the company, so completely achievable for people, for us as small business owners. So that dynamic purchasing system, the second one, is for vendor neutral network advice for organisations seeking to develop, enhance and secure their network infrastructure. So it can be used by Scottish Government, it can be used by central government, health, local authorities, universities, colleges, third sector. So pretty much anybody in Scotland can decide to buy from this, which means that you'll get a wide range of different size contracts on it. And so some frameworks, you have to accept all work that you're offered. Not all, but some. But in a dynamic purchasing system, you can evaluate everything that you're asked to bid for and decide if to bid for that or not, and you'll have no comeback if you don't bid for it. So it's relatively simple as a first step, and it allows you to evaluate and see what's in the market. Relatively simple and not too much resource to win it either. So frameworks and dynamic purchasing systems are really good options for you starting out in the public sector. So have you any other questions about that? Is that clear? Yeah, that's fine, right. If we've got time at the end, I've got some others that we can look at, or we can do a bit of a search around about your businesses. I'm happy to do that as well. So first steps. The first step you should do is put a lot of thought into what organisations will buy your products. The public sector is massive. It includes like central government departments like the Ministry of Defence with an absolutely amazing budget. Then you've also got at the other end of the scale arm's length bodies that are funded by government. Sorry. So there's an organisation that promotes Gaelic speaking in Scotland, and they employ about 21 people. So you can imagine if they've got a requirement for something, who they require to deliver it is likely to be very different to who the MOD need to deliver the same kind of thing, which means there needs to be different sized companies operating in different ways in the market to meet the needs throughout the public sector and to meet the requirements of everybody within that. So have a think about what types of organisations are likely to buy your product, and that's your product, whether it's goods or services. Then have a look at how they advertise their opportunities. So in Scotland, all opportunities must be advertised on the website Public Contracts Scotland. So it's worthwhile registering for that and registering for alerts and taking a look through what the public sector in Scotland are actually buying. In Wales, they use a portal called Sell to Wales, which is made by the same people that make Public Contracts Scotland. So if you know one system, you'll know the other. So if you want to sell in Wales, have a look at that as well. Northern Ireland use a system called eSourcing NI. So you might want to sign up with that. And in England, for contracts worth worth more than £10,000, Contracts Finder's used. They don't do alerts, so you need to actually go and look at that. But all opportunities over £10,000 must be advertised on a Contract Finder. We then have thresholds when, and all opportunities above the threshold in Scotland, England, Wales or Northern Ireland must be advertised on Find a Tender. So that's very similar look to a Contract Finder, and again, it doesn't do the alerts. So it's worth having a look at these portals, and this can actually give you an insight into both what organisations are likely to buy what you sell, and also it should tell you where they advertise them. Although they have to be advertised in these portals, in England in particular, you've then got a lot of other portals behind it. So some organisations have their own portal, like Department of Work and Pensions and the Ministry of Defence. Others club together and work on a geographic basis. So Chest is one of these. And yeah, so it's a bit of a mishmash in England. Scotland and Wales are much, much easier to deal with. But have a look at where they advertise and then sign up for the relevant portals so that you're getting alerts and that you're not having to go and look yourself all the time. In Scotland and Wales, if you've signed up for the portals, or once you've signed up for the portals, sorry, make sure you complete a supplier finder profile. And that's when the supplier finder profiles are used to invite people for quick quotes, used to invite people to apply for quick quotes. If you do not have a supplier finder profile, and if it's not public, then you will not be invited to bid for contracts. I'll give you a few tips on how to do your supplier finder profile. As well as the supplier finder profile, you then get an alert profile, so make sure that that's set up. It might take a bit of honing. It's not always, because it's quite broad categories, and you'll probably never get it exactly as you want it, but you're probably safer to have it slightly wider than you would expect, than you would hope. You're always going to get some irrelevant contracts, but hopefully there'll be some gold amongst that, so hold out for that. And then once you've done that, what you want to do is make sure that you're identifying contracts that might be of interest to you. So looking for frameworks where you know that that contract will last. Look, so your frameworks tend to last 2 or 3 years. But you know that you've got that contract going forward. Your dynamic purchasing systems, both of them are good first steps. There also can be single supplier contracts that are amazing for for businesses that are just starting to sell to the public sector. So don't discount them, but they can be slightly more difficult to get onto. So, but identify the contracts that might be of interest. It could be you identify something and you realise that it's of interest to you, but it's not something that you can do at the moment. What I would encourage you to do, if that's the case, is to capture that information and use it to help yourself upskill, but also to create a pipeline for contracts that you could be applying for in the future, because the chances are that the contract will be renewed in the future. So even if you're not capable, or if you've just not got the capacity to respond at the moment, it could be in 3 years when that's up for renewal, you will be in a position when you could be applying for it. So, and the dynamic purchasing systems, keep a note of them, because you can apply for any time that contract's open. So you might decide that just now's not the time for you, but in a year's time it might be, and at that point you would be able to apply for it. So it's worth keeping notes, keeping a pipeline going of opportunities that are there for you. Right, so let me tell you about the supplier finder profile. So if you're completing a supplier finder profile, I would encourage you to first of all write down words that you associate with your business and the products that you sell. So the first part of the supplier finder profile, you have to come up with 6 keywords, and I think it's easier if you've got more than 6, and you can then whittle it down rather than trying to get to the 6. So I would just spend 5 or 10 minutes considering what the words are that I'd associate with my business and my products, and then from there choose the 6 that best describe your business, and then you've got the 6 keywords. Keywords are what buyers will use to search for the businesses that they're going to invite to bid. Yeah, something on that, sorry, on the quick quotes. So normally, dependent on the value of the contract, depends on how a public body needs to advertise that. And what councils have what are called standing orders. So it dictates how goods and services must be bought. So normally when you're looking, I think it's up to about £10,000, then you can just ask for 3 quotes. Between the 10 and the 50, then you would have to ask for competitive bids through the click quote system normally. So you want to have the right words in there so that you're found for those type of contracts. So that fills out your keywords. Then consider what memberships you have. So that could be memberships that you have personally or memberships that your business have. So construction type businesses are normally like members of Safe Contractor or CHAS. Care businesses would have to be members of the Care Inspectorate. So think about those kind of things. Think about what makes you stand out from your competitors. And you want to start to use this information to build your company description, they call it on this. So you've got, I think it's up to 6,000 characters for this, or 3, which is about, oh, I've forgotten now how many words. I think it's about 600 words you can have on it, roughly, depending if you use big or small words, right enough. So think about the memberships and what makes you stand out. And this is the type of information that you want to start to include in your company description. Where you're based, right? So often in the procurement system of the standing orders, organisations are told that they must invite businesses that are local to them to bid for contracts. So they'll have certain tick boxes. So a local business, a small business, and somebody they've never used before. So where you're based is crucial to that, critical to it. So I would always start a supplier finder profile with based in and then the local authority area to make sure that you tick that box if they're looking for you locally. But I would then say based in, like, so I'm in Kirkintilloch, covering the whole of the UK, to make it clear what your geographic area is, so you're not ruling yourself out from others inviting you. So you want to try and optimise your supplier finder profile to increase the chances of you being invited to bid for something. So that was all I was, oh, Trish is in Kirkintilloch, oh, yeah. So that was really what I've got to tell you about just now, but I had said in this it was interactive. So has anybody got anything in particular you would like me to look for or look for more detail in? I've got a few more examples on here whilst I'm waiting for questions. Right, so most colleges in Scotland, so anybody in the kind of learning and development field, most colleges in Scotland are given access to money for Flexible Workforce Development Fund. And a lot of them have put out tenders for associate trainers to deliver this. So basically it's linked to the apprenticeship levy and businesses are then offered training. So City of Glasgow College had this out, I think it was out in 2019 with the contract notice in 2020. So this is a contract that has 5 lots and lots of sub-lots within it. And they wanted different size businesses. And when you look at who delivers this, sorry, let me find the companies that are. So yeah, lot 1, accredited qualification, and it's Fife College and a company called Phoenix Software that, and they're the only 2 that deliver on this lot of it. So, but then if you look further down, you've got some sole traders within that and on other lots and small business owners. So it's a real mix of different company sizes that are on this. So lots of opportunity for training and development within this. This is a contract that I'm on, and it only is one business that's delivered training to. And actually, the last training I delivered, it was 3 individuals on it from one company. So that actually ends up more of a consultancy than a training session because it's so small. But this also then led me to being invited. So another department within the council, so not part of this tender, the international, not the council, sorry, the college, the international department were looking for lecturers for a project that they have in China. So I was asked to go to China 3 years ago. For some unknown reason, I never actually have been to China, but I've delivered virtually. And that actually, in June 2020, when COVID was high, people weren't buying anything, was an absolute lifesaver to my business. But if I hadn't been on this part of the contract, I wouldn't have been invited to do the other. If I hadn't been on this framework, then I wouldn't have been invited to do the other work. So it can open up other opportunities to you, because it was easier to use me because I was already an approved supplier with the college than use somebody who they've never used before or isn't on an approved supplier list in any form. So that's one. This opportunity as well. So this opportunity was advertised, I think it was advertised in 2021, and the contract award notice came out then. So Scottish Government were looking for a business to deliver development training for women living or working in Scottish agriculture. So they'd previously advertised this and ran a pilot. One company had delivered it for them. It had evaluated really, really well, because with this tender, they actually gave the evaluation details. So it evaluated really, really well. The project team in Scottish Government were enjoying working with the company that they had. And then they had to re-tender it because the original contract was only for the pilot, and a brand new company won the contract because the incumbent provider didn't meet the qualification. They made a mistake, I think, in their qualification, but it was a brand new company who looked at this differently. So knew they could deliver it, but they also thought a lot about how they could deliver it better, and ended up collaborating with another new business and a couple of sole traders who hadn't ever worked with the public sector, and they were successful and are currently delivering this at the moment. Much to everybody's amazement, it was them that won the contract, but it's because they thought about how they could deliver it well and showed that they could deliver it better than the incumbent provider. So it shows you that it's not always, well, there's a lot of myths out there about selling to the public sector, and it's not always the people that you think will win that do win these contracts. So has anybody got, I know that a few of you from the comments when you were signing up weren't sure about how the public sector would work for you. So have you got any particular questions, or would you like me to do a few searches on the types of opportunities that are out there for you?
There must be some questions there, or I mean, I know Shiona, you've had a wee look at the different businesses, so yeah. I think that's one thing I was going to jump into. Oh, there we go. Robert's jumping in.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Damon, and apologies for the background noise. I'm in a factory. If you'd like to, you can have a look at the opportunities for someone who manufactures coffee. I'm already on the system, and I do get notifications, but they're often quite vague. So I'd be keen to see how a professional has a look.
So coffee?
Yes, we make coffee.
So the Houses of Commons bought coffee.
All right.
They also bought wine, which I think it's quite a strange time for them to be buying wine when you saw the headlines around it about that time.
Yep.
But the Houses of Commons and the House of Lords often buy to sell in their gift shop. Oh
really? Okay,
yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, it's Nicola Sturgeon's favourite coffee. I don't know if you've seen the news.
Oh right.
we have a blend called Nippy Sweetie, and she bought it from us and posted it all over social media. So it may or may not go down well down south. I'm not sure.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, the politics around it.
Aye. I'm just going to mute myself again, Shiona.
Yeah, that's
just
fine.
because there's so much noise. But thank you very much.
That's
brilliant. No, good one there. So there's your search results.
Yeah, so this, I think with the coffee, you're better looking wider than just Scotland. And here, well, there you've got a live opportunity, the first one. And I didn't plant Robert in the audience. So that's one that's closing on the 22nd of February. So what I would do if I was like working with somebody who was considering this, so the value of the contract's between £500,000 and £575,000. Runs from the 1st of April 2023 till the 31st of March 2026. So that value should be for the whole duration of the contract. Says it's suitable for SMEs. So English heritage would be an interesting one to get your coffee into, I would suspect. And the value is so high because they've got 32 in-house sites with 27 retail sites. So what you would then do is go into intend, and you would find out more within that. So you download the documentation. But this information in here should theoretically give you enough detail that you're able to, you know, if you want to look into it further, so you can make an initial assessment on it at that point. But there were other things there as well. Oh, so coffee cups. So coffee will, so any search term you put in here is likely to bring up some some things that aren't necessarily relevant to you. There's a link, Robert.
Hello, Shiona. It's Richard here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I was very encouraged. I was coming along because I've done some work in the public sector in the past.
Yep.
I'm an associate, training associate as well, actually.
Yep.
And I actually had a contract with Silver Service Learning about 4 or 5 years ago for their management training and core skills programs. And I don't know if it was ever replaced. Well, where could I find out about that?
So who was it with? Sorry.
Civil Service Learning, and I actually ran it through. I did it through a training company. I was effectively a subcontractor, but I can't. I'm trying to run my. I'm trying to set my. A new start really with this. I'm considering myself a new start because actually what's happened is I appear to have lost any ability to find any work at all. So and I've looked at public contracts as well, but I don't. I must be writing. I wonder if I'm actually using the right search terms.
Right.
And I don't know. You know, again, whether if I just wrote associate trainer, whether I would actually get something to come back from that, or whether that's a precise enough definition.
You would get some associate trainer stuff coming up in Scotland. So the City of Glasgow training that I showed you there, it's a framework. So I think it runs out sometime this year. But Ayrshire College have a dynamic purchasing system. So you can apply for that at any time.
Right.
And Fife College in Edinburgh put things out quite regularly, but they tend to be specialised.
Okay.
So when you said about the civil service,
yeah,
Crown Commercial Services has a learning and training DPS, so dynamic purchasing system. So again, you can apply for this at any time. I've not had a particularly close look at this. Crown Commercial Services tend to need you to have quite a lot of accreditations and things. I don't know if this is the case for this, which might rule it out. But if anybody wants, I'm quite happy to have a chat with people in the next week or so and looking at particular things and talking to you about how it might apply to your business and work with your business.
Well, that would be interesting. Thank you very much.
But yeah, I'm happy to arrange that. The other thing of something that you said there is it's not always about winning contracts yourself. Another way in can be piggybacking off the back of somebody. So looking to see who's winning things and then asking them if you can subcontract for them can be a way in.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that until you just said then, and it suddenly occurred to me that they'll be needing subcontractors as well.
Yeah. So I did a bit of work with somebody who wanted to, he realised that Scottish Enterprise were quite a good fit with him.
Aye.
So what we did was, so every public body must publish a contract register. So it details all their contracts and who's won them.
Yeah.
So we downloaded it onto Excel, got rid of all the contracts that were of no interest to him, and that left him with the core of who he was interested in.
Yeah.
And he then contacted all of them and asked, and he picked up subcontracting work for 2. His intention at that point was to bid for it himself going forward when it was renewed, but he actually found it's quite a good fit and he was getting other work from them, so he just went forward with their bid as part of their bid team for the next time.
That's very encouraging. That's great. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so that can be another way in. There's a lot of companies that that have associates that deliver for them, depending exactly what type of work. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's I think that's going to be very useful.
Can I ask? Sorry. You go first, Tracy. It's fine.
Thank you. Historically, I have some experience with Public Contract Scotland. I'm a planning consultant.
Right.
And inevitably, planning is tied up under architecture. So it's involved, if we've gone in for bids, we've been asked to come in via the architecture route. But I'd be interested to know if there were opportunities for, I can't remember the terminology used, but it was the kind of preferred groupings that people went to directly to say, hey, we've got these requirements, and they give you the kind of preferred bid option almost. But I was wondering if there'd be any kind of opportunities in the kind of planning field directly, or is it all really just under architecture?
The majority, so I had a look at the attendee list yesterday to try and get an idea. I think the bulk would be under architecture, but I think keeping an eye on them, you might find some other bits. But I wondered if the subcontract might be easier for you.
Yeah.
So connecting up with people that are winning and offering them or either subcontracting or associate.
Yeah, it tends to be the way it appears that would work. Because I kind of took a bit of time looking at it during lockdown, just looking at various kind of ways in, because there is such a source of work. But previously I worked in a multinational, so the kind of bids that we were going for then were significant. So don't really have too much knowledge of kind of smaller projects that would likely come forward, and if on those there would be scope to have planners, because it's an additional resource.
I started trying to have a look. It might be easier to talk to you separately and work out exactly how to
it's tricky. It is tricky. It's a kind of sub-consultancy almost.
I think there are some things. So I spoke about like things that are lotted.
Yeah.
So you do get things split into parts, and I think you might find on some of the bigger things they will be split down enough that potentially you have a lot you can go for.
Yeah.
But it won't be everybody. So it'll be few rather than lots. But I think there probably will be opportunities there.
Yeah, I've definitely seen them, but I've not actually bid for any via my own consultancy. It's time consuming to kind of take an eye on and identify who you should possibly be going to go and speak to in real life, really, and get that kind of avenue in, which it kind of happens organically anyway in the way that I do my business. But yeah, it's kind of something to maybe just do a bit of homework on, really.
Yeah, and I think some of it will be either bigger housing associations or the bigger councils potentially. But you do have some things where people group together to buy. So there's like procurement for housing. So I don't know if they might have something that would work for you.
Yeah, it's quite niche.
Yes. So Yeah. Oh, they used to have a list of their things on here.
Mm.
So
Yeah, again, it's something I've never heard of this before. So
yeah, I think you potentially might find some things in that, but we maybe need a bit longer to look at that.
Yeah,
I think with the nicheness.
Yeah, that's interesting though. Thank you.
But also the supplier finder profile might work for you, where because you might find that because it's relatively niche, it could also be kind of smaller value, like so less smaller value. And sorry, I use that because it's the term they use.
No, absolutely.
£50,000 contract isn't smaller value, but you might find that you're fitting in that, and that you might find that if you go searching, you won't find the bids, but the bids will come and find you.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'd be interested in finding out how you get onto that.
It is actually relatively simple, so yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
All right.
So hi, my name's Trish.
Trish.
We run a social enterprise. Yeah, well, I'm in Kirky now because we have a unit in Kirky where we deliver like sewing machine skills. So we've been here just for about a year, but we've been running for about 3 years. So we're a social enterprise, and we deliver like sewing machine training and we classes, but we also do service and repair of sewing machines and things like that. And I've done a small course on it, and I've only just started to look at Public Contract Scotland. I find all the different terms confusing, like quick quotes and lots, and whether it's already been sort of, if you know, they've already delivered the training. You know, there's lots of different terms, and I get a bit confused by it. Also, I don't even know whether I'm registered on it when I looked that time, so I have to go back and check it all again. But I do think that we would be quite a good fit for some of the things that are out there, particularly if it's around mental health training or mental health, you know, delivery of certain things. But I just don't know how to do it, where to start. I think that's where I am. I think I'm right at the start of this.
So for you, when you're talking about the training, you've got a dynamic purchasing system that the DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, run, and it's to get people back into work, so employability. I think that there's potential with you with that.
That's interesting, because what I did last year was there's a company that they provide SVQ qualifications for people that are getting ready to return to work. So I partnered with them, and we delivered a training programme to Stirling Council, because there was a grant scheme, or I can't remember what it was called. I think it was No One's Left Behind or something like that. And we put in a partnership one, but they were asking us to deliver it for far too low an amount. It was just ridiculous what they wanted us to deliver it for. So I said no, there's no way that I could do it. And what they did was they came back and said, actually in April, we would like for you to deliver it for a year within the local authority rather than just for this 12-week programme that we initially. And I was really proud of the bid that we put in. It was a really, really good, and you sort of touched on it earlier, that someone just listened to the question and listened to what they needed, and we delivered a programme that just ticked every box. And it's sort of accessing the green economy and making sure people have got skills for textiles and manufacturing that are coming back, and there's a real shortage of it in Stirling, and we would be able to supply the workforce. So it's sort of partnering with the right company as well. So there was quite a lot of excitement stuff around that, but I thought if I could do that even locally within East or West Bartonshire, or just do it, but it's hard to find those that come up, you know, the applications, and some of them already have all the money assigned, so they want you to deliver it for hardly anything, so it's really difficult to get in.
Yeah, and some people look at social enterprises and think you can deliver it for nothing as well.
Yeah,
rather than it being a sustainable business. Which is ultimately what you want. So employability, you've got a few people who deliver employability, or who hold the purse strings. So you've got the fund from the Department of Work and Pensions, then you've got Skills Development Scotland have a framework as well, and then you've got local authorities, and the local authorities do it in different ways. So South Lanarkshire have a well, similar. It's called a procured services agreement, and you're talking about the terminology. It's very similar to PPA, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah. So we're
So
just about to open up in Ayrshire as well. We're starting Stitch the Gap Ayrshire in this month in February coming. So there's opportunities, I think, with that local authority as well, but we're just starting in that area.
So East Lothian they put a notice on Public Contract Scotland, and they invited grant applications. So that was like over Christmas. I think the deadline was about the 6th of January, and they wanted to know. And so I think they had a top budget, but basically you could put in anything as long as it met broad funding over the overarching funding aims. So they then will decide from that how they're spending it. But others seem to go, it's a complete mishmash of how the local authority money is spent.
Yeah, you're having to sort of figure out, I like the idea of being a supplier finder and they can find you. But, I don't think that's
Although I think you're quite niche and you potentially would want to approach them about it.
Yeah, there's so many ways that you can fit, because you might look at us and disregard us, I think, if you just think, oh, you just deliver sewing lessons. But actually it's a lot more than that. So you could, I mean, we can sell products as well, and we can give people an income by giving them the skills to be able to be self-employed. So there's loads of different ways you can go. And we also take just donated fabrics, so we've got a real environmental message, and we're starting to sort of get people buy the fabric from us rather than go to a fabric shop, because it's just more environmentally sort of friendly than buying it from scratch and causing the problem.
Do you do some work with children as well, don't you?
Yeah, we do right up from age 6. So right, we're running classes all week, so we've got all different things going on. So we do that stuff with kids.
Because every school in Scotland's been given money to challenge the attainment gap. So it's pupil equity fund, it's also known as, and so it's meant to be up to the head teacher how to spend that. And what they want to do is increase the literacy, numeracy and health and well-being of children and young people. Potentially you could be offering something that would fit into that as well.
I do contact the schools a lot, even in our local area. That's how I advertise. And you have to go through the head of education even to be allowed to advertise within schools. You have to show that you've met all the different criteria, which I've done through East and Bartonshire. But the head teachers are, oh my God, they're so tight with their budgets. And they've asked for a couple of quotes and I'll give them, and they don't come back. So I have to relook at that. But the girl who's going to be opening our Ayrshire branch, and she is a previous head teacher and she knows every head teacher, it feels like, in Ayrshire. So we might go down that route as well, but it's just, I think, you just have to kind of go on an individual level. But I just thought maybe there's something in this sort of public procurement thing as well that I've missed or that I could look at.
I would say the employability might be the route in for you. But I wouldn't necessarily be going, I would be trying to approach people, because I think once somebody knows what you do and can see the benefit, they're more likely to find a way around things.
Even I keep wondering who services and repairs the sewing machines that are in some of the schools, because I know the secondary schools, some of them choose to run sewing lessons and others don't, as part of their home economics curriculum. And I don't know who fixes our machines, because we've got a mechanic that can service and repair machines. So I would like to go for that as well, but I just know if no one's getting back to me so far, so I'll keep at it.
So schools have there's a framework through Scotland Excel. So Scotland Excel can buy on behalf of 32 local authorities, and they've got one, it's for materials in schools. So you've got like the books, the jotters, musical instruments, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I think I've got a client who sells musical instruments. I think the musical instrument repair comes under that. So I don't know if sewing machine repair would come under the lot for that or not.
I'd be interested to see.
Some of it might also be it's under the threshold, so they just go to the person they've always used.
Yeah.
because they don't have to advertise it.
There's so few people that can do it. That's the thing. And I've heard people before that say, I've heard someone say, you know, if that machine's broken, it just sits there and it's not getting used.
Yeah.
So that's that's a shame that it's just sort of mothballed. And we've got a lending library of machines, and if it's not used, we'd take it, fix it, and lend it out to someone, you know, so we could use it again. So it's even having that, you know, they don't have to just have it sitting taking up space in a cupboard. You know, we could use that. But again, yeah, it's all small stuff. Yeah.
Yes. But as I said, with anybody, I'm happy to have a chat and look at what we could do, what you could do going forward, and doing a bit of search for you.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant. No, that's really fascinating, finding out these different backgrounds and different organisations. So that sounds great. Trish, sounds like you need to join the chamber with some of our other members. Social enterprise members. Lovely community.
Yeah, I've just joined LinkedIn, so I'm only just getting better at networking.
Well, what we can say is I'm happy to, you know, anyone who does want to connect, I've been picking out some intro emails on the back of today. So if you do want to connect with Shiona, just let me know.
Okay, that'd be great.
I was just going to say, just on that last slide, I've got a free Facebook group, and I do look at opportunities every week on a Monday. I've got a thing called a Spotlight On, and I'll give you, so it's always something that's suitable for small business owners, and I'll tell people why I think it's suitable. So it just gives a bit more flavour about the contracts that are out there. So if you want to, I'm quite happy if anybody wants to join, or my email's there if you want to organise a catch up, then I'm happy to do that as well.
Okay.
I've just got one very quick last question. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's an organisation that email me frequently called Wired-Gov, and they appear to be a supplier locator procurement gateway for public. Is that legit?
It's not something I've heard of, but there are a lot of organisations who host different procurement portals. So in Scotland and Wales, there's one portal that everything needs to be advertised on, but in England you get a lot of different ones, and some of them will charge you for searches and things like that. So
I haven't done anything with it, but I was just wondering if it was legit. But thank you.
Good. Well, that's great. Fantastic. Good. Like I said, fascinating finding out about people's challenges, and it's very much what this is all about. And then it's not just about, you know, sometimes you'll find Shiona's sort of started to sort of give hints about other avenues as well there, you know. So for instance, I've done work in, you know, when you're talking about employability and mental health and stuff, I start thinking of housing associations whose remit has expanded into all of that area. So even, you know, looking to make connections with, you know, housing associations in your area is a good one for, you know, sort of, you know, particularly Stitch the Gap, Trish. You know, that sounds like it's worth letting them know what you do. I'm sure you're already sort of speaking to a few, but you know, there's always other ways to sort of get in and about suppliers that this might sort of prompt some conversations. So that sounds brilliant, Shiona, and we're more than happy to share anything, as you know, for any members that want to share opportunities on an ongoing basis, just in the e-news that goes out. So if you wanted to promote any of these things going forward. So is there anything else you want to finish up with, Shiona, before we wrap up, or any other questions?
Just really to finish up, it is worth having a bit of a look to see what's out there, because you'll probably be surprised about who's buying what you sell. So yeah, that would be what I would say, is just have a quick search and have a look at and see what is out there for you.
And I'd like to, as well as thank you, Shiona, for a brilliant wee insight into this sort of world that can be slightly scary for a lot of people, and it stops them doing it. I think it is a massive opportunity, and I think you picked up on a good point there about, you know, if you just do it, you actually start to learn, and don't expect, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint, you know, very much, and you very much learn to hone your content, I would say. So you kind of have to do it, and don't expect to get the first 3 contracts that you put in for, you know, you'll develop over time.
Well, not necessarily, because what you do is you hone yourself on looking and and then you should be able to choose the right thing. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm probably just describing my process, having learned through making mistakes with tenders and spending a load of time and then getting it scored. Because the good thing is they score you and let you know. I guess that's what I'm thinking about is see what I was doing wrong from the ones that I failed with, was I guess my point, because you do get the scoring criteria on some of them. So no, and it's great opportunity. And I will sort of say, you know, if you're really serious about this, you know, obviously this is Shiona's business. So, you know, I know for a fact that the businesses that have invested in having someone provide that extra support will take them to a completely different level in terms of their success and putting themselves in a fantastic position. So please bear that in mind, and for your networks as well, because we can always tell our contacts, we can always recognize that our own customers may have that have those opportunities to use Shiona's services to unlock this potential as well. So thanks Shiona again for a brilliant presentation, and thanks everyone for coming today, and hope to see you soon, and there'll be lots of connections as a follow-up to this. As I said, just drop us a line if you need anything at all. Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks.
Bye for now.